This is Newsroom on SABC News. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg in South Africa. My name is Catrine Malan, standing in for Eben Jansen. The show is live between 9 and 10 a.m. every weekday, with highlights rebroadcast at 2 in the afternoon and a complete rebroadcast at 5 a.m. the next morning. We're also streaming live on YouTube between 9 and 10 a.m. every day, with the entire show available all day on our YouTube channel. The big question of the day: will Oscar Pistorius be taking the stand in his murder trial, which resumes today? We take a look at the Buckle Up Road Safety campaign, and the Cape Town International Jazz Festival kicks off this weekend. But more on that later in the show. Let's take a look at the news headlines. Oscar Pistorius is expected to be the defence's first witness today when his murder trial resumes in the North Gauteng High Court. It's common practice in South Africa for the defense to call the accused first, and Pistorius is very likely to take the stand to testify about the night he shot dead his girlfriend, Jansen. Pistorius says he mistook her for an intruder, but the state says it was premeditated murder. The legal battle between COSATU and its suspended General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi will continue at the South Gauteng High Court today. His lawyers have told the court that the suspension is in violation of the Federation's constitution and that it should be set aside. Vavi was suspended in the wake of a sex scandal involving a junior employee. And South Africa escaped from possibly their most humiliating performance in the T20 cricket by the skin of their teeth after beating the Netherlands by just 6 runs in a World Cup match in Bangladesh. The Proteas were sent into bat first and managed only 145 for 9 in their 20 overs. The Dutch came close but were eventually bowled out for 139 in the 19th over. Oscar Pistorius' defense team confirmed earlier this week that the Paralympian will take the stand in his murder trial as the state closed its case after 15 days in the North Gauteng High Court. The defense team will try to show that Pistorius acted in private defense when he shot Jansen in his Pretoria East home last year. We now cross live to our reporter Griselda Lewis, who is at the North Gauteng High Court. Morning, Griselda, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Catherine. Good morning.
Griselda, the big question: will Pistorius be taking the stand today?
Well, procedurally, Catherine, Oscar Pistorius is expected to take the stand, but we're also hearing rumours at the moment that the defence might bring an application that Oscar Pistorius testify at a later stage. If that does happen, we're expecting the state to oppose that. But procedurally, normally what happens is that once the defense starts with its case, normally in South Africa, you would have the accused that takes the stand first. So it remains to be seen what happens at 9:30 inside court. We've managed to ask the defense lawyers and also other parties concerned with the case whether Oscar Pistorius will indeed take the stand today, but no one is willing to give us confirmation on that. So we're all waiting for 9:30 for the case to resume.
Now, could you set the scene at court for us? Is there an increase in media presence today?
Well, Catherine, certainly an increased media presence today. If I can just get out of this shot a bit, as you can see there, this is all the media that has been waiting for Oscar Pistorius to arrive here today. Certainly an increase from the numbers that we saw over the past few days. You would know that the world's media has been focusing on other very important stories, of course, that have been running throughout the world, including developments surrounding the Malaysian aircraft or so. But today, because of this expectation that Oscar Pistorius will take to the stand, many of the media have actually returned now, and certainly there will be a scramble to get inside the main courtroom if Oscar Pistorius does take to the stand today.
Now, in a nutshell, can you just recap the case for us and where we are at this point in the case?
Well, basically what we saw last week was the state wrapping up its case, where primarily what their arguments were that at the home of Oscar Pistorius on the 14th of February, screams and gunshots were heard. We saw neighbours testify to that. We also saw Oscar Pistorius' character come under scrutiny, where his ex-girlfriends and his friends testified to his behaviour, saying that he was trigger happy, that he had a love and a passion for guns, and also that Oscar Pistorius often had violent outbursts. That's what we heard from his ex-girlfriend Samantha Taylor. Then we also really got inside the crime scene, where expert witnesses came to testify that Reva Steenkamp had been cowering behind the bathroom door when Oscar Pistorius shot her. That's where we really got to see and hear details of the last moments of Reva Steenkamp on that Valentine's Day in Oscar Pistorius' bathroom. We also then lastly heard about the messages that Oscar Pistorius had exchanged with his girlfriend and that his girlfriend had exchanged with him. Some of those messages indicating a fractured relationship and other SMSs indicating that the two were very much in love. But it remains to be seen what the defense will bring now as it starts its case today, how they will try to prove that Oscar Pistorius did not intend to shoot and kill his girlfriend Reva Steenkamp, when Oscar Pistorius, we're not expecting anything different to the affidavit that we also saw during the bail application, that Oscar Pistorius maintains that he woke up that morning and he heard there was an intruder in his home. He went to the bathroom and shot through the bathroom door, thinking somebody else was behind that bathroom door and not Reva Steenkamp.
Then, Griselda, just to close off, what other kind of witnesses can we expect to be called by the defence?
Well, we're expecting possibly some of the witnesses that the state did not call to come and testify, perhaps Oscar Pistorius' family and some other experts as well, would try to assist the defense in its case to try and prove that this was all a big mistake. So it remains to be seen again who will be called this morning, whether it's Oscar Pistorius or somebody else who will take the stand first. But as expected, 90% Oscar Pistorius will take the stand.
Well, Griselda, thank you so much for joining us. That was our reporter, Griselda Lewis, who's been following this case since the beginning of this month, when it started on the 3rd of March. Oscar Pistorius is expected to be the defence's first witness today when his murder trial resumes in the North Gauteng High Court. According to criminal procedure, the accused usually takes the stand first to give his version of events.
Early hours of Valentine's Day last year, was it premeditated murder or a deadly mistake? Well, we've had testimony from nearby neighbours, an argument followed by blood-curdling screams and gunshots. It's now Oscar Pistorius' turn to tell his side of the story.
The accused needs to demonstrate that there was no argument, that there was no screaming before the shooting, and this would be consistent with his version that he heard an intruder and shot at the intruder.
So he's got to convince the court that he thought that his life was in immediate jeopardy and that he was justified in firing the shots.
Messages between Mr. Pistorius and...
The defense will argue it was Pistorius screaming in a high-pitched voice and that neighbors mistook the sound of the cricket bat striking the door for gunshots.
I suspect they're going to do ballistics tests. I suspect that they're going to do acoustics tests to show the sound of a gunshot and the sound of a cricket bat.
Its list of experts include forensic geologist Roger Dixon, ballistic expert Tom Vulmerans, blood splatter analyst Jannie van der Westhuizen, as well as one of the top private forensic pathologists, Dr. Reggie Perumal. An American animation company, Evidence Room, has also been hired to recreate the crime scene. The state's witnesses were not called to testify, could also be called by the defense, among them his friend Justin Devaris, Johan Stander, an estate manager at Silverwoods, and his family members. But it's his testimony that will be closely watched.
I don't think the defense has really any choice but to call the accused because of the nature of the defense. Putative self-defense is an intention defense.
If Oscar's telling the truth, he's got nothing to fear. If he's telling lies, he's got an interesting week ahead of him.
Pistorius could take the stand when the defense presents its case. Mangoba Mchunu, SABC News, Pretoria.
This Easter holiday season, you will see quadriplegics and paraplegics deployed at garages on national roads, encouraging motorists to buckle up in order to reduce the number of spinal cord injuries from road crashes on the country's roads. The Quad Para Association will ask motorists to wear their seatbelts this festive season in order to prevent a spinal cord injury in the event of a road crash. Now, we are joined by one of the members of the association, Joseph Machu. Joseph, thank you so much. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us. The campaign is launching this weekend. Can you tell us about the thinking behind this campaign?
Yes, it's true. The campaign is starting this weekend. The thinking behind the campaign is as the Quad Para Association of South Africa not only delivers services to the quads and paraplegics, but we also chose to honor our constitution by supporting the prevention of the spinal cord injuries, where it is proven that by not wearing a seat belt in a road crash, it increases the chances of a spinal cord injury. So we will be spreading the message to approach the motorists by to wear the seat belt.
Now, how many people a year sustain spinal cord injuries? Do you have the figures for us?
I think at the beginning of the year, the Minister of Transport, she did put the information of saying 1,400 of them on the road death in our national road, but 700 of them, it was from the road crash, according to our research.
Now, what is the campaign called, and how will it, just to our viewers, how will it work?
We have chosen this catch slogan where we says, buckle up, we don't want new members. Where our members will approach the motorist and encourage them to wear a safety belt to eliminate the chances of them to become the severe injury where they will become spinal cord injuries if they're not using the safety belt.
Now, it's such a simple thing to do, but still South Africans don't buckle up. Tell our viewers why it is so important to wear a seatbelt.
There is an evidence that wearing a safety belt will reduce your chances of a catastrophic injury. It is now a law, not only as a front seat passenger to wear a safety belt, but also as a back seat passenger to put a safety belt in order for you not to become a spinal cord injury.
Now tell us how the process at the garages will work. How can we identify your members at the garages?
As I've said earlier, the Quad Para Association will be deploying quads and paraplegics at 8 garages at the national roads of South Africa, where our members, mostly the quads and paras who were victims of the road crashes, will approach the motorist to sign the pledge, and in return will give them the disc holder, which clearly visible marked, buckle up, we don't want new members, as that is our slogan.
Can you tell us a bit more about the Quad Para Association, the type of work that you guys do?
The Quad Para Association, strictly we're trying to improve the quality life of the spinal cord injury, where we offer opportunity for quadriplegics and paraplegics. We offer them computer training, skill development, assistive devices, bursaries in the sport activities, bursaries in the education, and opportunities to be employed. The mostly things which we are doing, we focus on research to improve the life of the spinal cord injuries, and we are involved in lobby and advocacy to improve the human rights of our members so that they can live a full life after being involved in a road crash, so that they can live an independent life.
Well, Joseph, thank you so much, and it's amazing the work that you do. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, that was Joseph Machu from the Quad Para Association of South Africa. The association will launch a campaign this weekend urging motorists to wear seatbelts this Easter holidays. Now, let's have a look at what you're saying on social media. Please remember to send your views to sabc.co.za or news on our Twitter at SABC Newsroom. So, will Oscar Pistorius finally take to the stand today? Must stay awake, Oscar Pistorius, #Oscar trial. Maybe I should stay at home in case Oscar Pistorius takes the stand. The doctor did book me off after all. Certainly the biggest story today. How are there books already when the case isn't even finished? People always cashing in somewhere. Then Oscar Pistorius, #Oscar trial, D-Day for you. If Oscar Pistorius takes the stand today, there will be no CBBS on this TV today. Okay. Now, after the break, we take a look at the do's and don'ts of retirement funds, as well as the Cape Town Jazz International Festival kicks off this weekend. This is Newsroom on SABC News.
Take a pinch of alpha, that's for fun. Stir it up. And that's of fidelity, titty-dum. Yeah, sprinkle in a magic peanut butter. Zip-a-dee-dee-dee. Chop it up. And a dash of alka-samacito. Life is a jalapeno. When you sap-a-dee-do. In a world of imagination, you...
Remember when the world was full of wonder and you felt excited about banking? It's time to feel like that again. The new Standard Bank app is going to change banking as we know it and put the joy back into managing your finances. When last did you feel this excited about banking?
Welcome to our Friday edition of A View from the House, coming to you live from Parliament. My name is Asanda Mbeche. President Jacob Zuma officially opened the National House of Traditional Leaders and calls on traditional leaders to work closely with elected public representatives.
South Africa is a much better place to live in than it was before 1994. Many of our traditional leaders can attest to that fact, having seen improvements.
A View from the House, weekdays at 2:30 on SABC News.
Welcome back. You're with Newsroom on SABC News. Retirement annuities are an ideal way to save for your retirement because contributions are tax deductible within limits and are inaccessible before anybody leaves active work life. National Treasury in 2014 budget announced new retirement reform proposals. The proposals were welcomed by the industry, and to talk about these proposals, we are joined by investment specialist Craig Aitchison. Craig, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Now, Craig, let's just start off. What is the significance of the new retirement proposals?
Well, I think the significance is best illustrated by a story that I sometimes tell about retirement. And I had a friend who recently retired about a year or two ago. And I remember quite clearly we were quite excited for him. And as the time came to retire, I came up to him one day and said, aren't you excited, this life of leisure that you're going to live? And he turned around and looked at me and he said, no, actually he's extremely concerned. And when I asked why, it turned out that he just found out about a month before he had to retire that the amount of money he had to live on in retirement was about a third of what he was earning before he retired. And so instead of having this, this wonderful transition into retirement, he had to start making drastic changes to his lifestyle, sell his house, all those kinds of things. And I think that kind of scenario, unfortunately, in our country is actually the typical scenario. It's not the exception. And that's what these reforms are trying to tackle. They're trying to stop that being the norm and create a situation where we do have enough to retire on.
Now, how do you stop this being the norm?
So there's really one or two basic rules. I mean, the first one is we want to encourage people to save as early as possible for retirement. So sometimes I'm asked, when should I start thinking about retirement? Is it 45? Is it 35? Actually, I'd say the day you start working is the best time to start, because it just takes a long time to save up enough money to have a good income in retirement. And so if you're working and you're not saving for retirement, start now. That's the first one. So start as early as you can. The second one is save for as long as you can. So one of the big reasons why the typical situation is that of my friend, where people are arriving at retirement, they have actually worked a long career but have no money, is that currently our system allows us to take our money out. So every time we change jobs, we get access to our retirement savings, and most people, understandably, don't keep that money for retirement. They use it for something else. It could be to upgrade a room in the house, it could be a vehicle, it could be appliances. Some use it to pay off debt, but it's not on retirement. And so one day when that retirement comes, the money's no longer there, and that's why we don't have enough. So that's one of the key proposals in the reforms, is helping us to rather keep retirement savings for retirement.
Now, it's a known fact that South Africans don't always save. How are the new proposals going to help?
So it's absolutely right. I mean, if you look at the statistics and you look at what the economists put together and you look at what households save, the figure right now is that we save 0%. We actually save nothing. Now, it's not that we're not saving anything. We are saving some money, but for every rand we save, we are actually also incurring a rand of debt. And that's why we end up saying we're not very good at saving. Now, what the proposals do, there's a couple of things. One is this idea of savings you've already put in retirement, let's keep it. That'll help boost the amount of savings in the economy. Another proposal that government has is they're saying that if you work, you must be compelled to save for retirement. Right now, it's voluntary in that it depends on your employer. If your employer says, look, we have a retirement fund, then you must belong to it. But the employer says, no, it's up to you, you don't have to. Government wants to change that by saying that if you work, you must save for retirement.
Now, just to clarify, what steps do I need to take, and for the viewers out there, to secure a healthy retirement fund?
So I think the rules of thumb are start as easy as you can, start as early as you can, rather, save as much as you can, and I'll give a rough rule of thumb on that now, and save for as long as you can. So start early, save as much as you can, save as long as you can, and as regularly as you can. And the rough rule of thumb is that ideally you want to be putting about 15%, maybe even 20% of what you're earning, put that aside towards retirement. That will then secure you an income that's pretty much what you would have been used to in your working life for retirement.
What is your opinion to the South African social security system, like child grants as well?
Yeah, look, I think in our country, social security is very important. And I think in some ways we can describe our system as a mile wide, but an inch deep, in that we've got massive coverage. There's, in the budget they announced again, 16 million people will get grants from government. That's 16 out of, the census tells us, 50 million. So it's about 1 in every 3 people are receiving a grant from government. So it's a mile wide. But it's an inch deep in that the amounts are quite small. Even the state old age grant is a little over 1,000 rand. And so when you compare that to international systems, you'll see that there's actually more we can do on the social security side. And I think that's one of the tough things government has to try balance, is how do they stimulate growth, stimulate an economy that can grow jobs, but at the same time make sure there's enough of a safety net to protect the vulnerable people in our country.
And just lastly, quickly, when should people consider going on retirement?
As late as possible. Every year they can defer their retirement. This makes the rest of the years a whole lot better.
Okay, great. Craig, thank you so much for joining us. And that was Craig Aitchison, an investment specialist, giving us more insight to retirement funds. Now, yesterday we spoke to Bernard Hortz from Worksman's Attorneys about the defence's case that is set to start in the next few minutes in the Oscar Pistorius murder trial. Let's take a look at what he had to say. Now, also, let's quickly have a look at what you're saying on social media. My faith in our justice system is restored. Hashtag Griquastad. As you remember, yesterday a 17-year-old boy was found guilty of killing a couple and a teenage daughter on a farm near Griquastad. Homo decides that the boy may not be released on bail pending sentencing. Hashtag Griquastad. Hashtag SABC News. Circumstantial evidence and he is guilty. Griquastad. That's justice. Griquastad Oscar trial. My lady takes some lessons from my lord Homo. The sheer viciousness of people is astounding. Hashtag Griquastad. Hashtag Oscar trial. Griquastad conviction. Excellent detective and forensic work. Cooperation with prosecution team. Job well done. That's from our police service. Go straight to jail. Do not pass. So do not collect 200 rand. Hashtag Griquastad. Now, after the break, we take a look at this morning's headlines and then cross live to the Oscar Pistorius murder trial. This is Newsroom on SABC News.
Zoom into Africa. This is Burkina Faso. The president is Mr. Blaise Compaoré. Burkina Faso got independent from France on 5th August 1960. The population is more than 17 million people. One of Burkina Faso's major languages spoken is French. Monetary unit is CFA.
SABC News plays a critical role in providing unbiased and reliable news. We have a well-established reputation of uncovering, reporting and delivering news. A significant growth in popularity of our news demonstrates the demand for our news content. We continue to provide unrivaled coverage of vital events in and out of the country. Wherever the news is happening, we'll be there to bring them to you at the right time. No one has the news covered like SABC News. We lead and they follow. SABC News, Africa's news leader.
That's Sports Live, daily at 8:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. You're on Newsroom on SABC News. Let's take a look at this morning's headlines. Oscar Pistorius is expected to be the defence's first witness today when his murder trial resumes in the North Gauteng High Court. It's common practice in South Africa for the defense to call the accused first, and Pistorius is very likely to take the stand to testify about the night he shot dead his girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp. Pistorius says he mistook her for an intruder, but the state says it was premeditated murder. The legal battle between COSATU and its suspended General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi will continue at the South Gauteng High Court today. His lawyers have told the court that the suspension is in violation of the Federation's constitution and that it should be set aside. Vavi was suspended in the wake of a sex scandal involving a junior employee. And South Africa escaped from possibly their most humiliating performance in the T20 cricket by the skin of their teeth after beating the Netherlands by just 6 runs in a World Cup match in Bangladesh. The Proteas were sent into bat first and managed only 145 for 9 in their 20 overs. The Dutch came close but were eventually bowled out for 139 in the 19th over. Well, now the Cape Town International Jazz Festival is ready to take Cape Town by storm. No doubt that thousands of jazz lovers will be flocking to the Cape Town International Convention Centre this weekend to catch a glimpse of their favourite artists performing. This year they will be spoilt with choice and will be hopping between 5 stages to make sure they don't miss out. Now, to tell us more in detail about the event is Billy Domingo, the Operations Director of the Cape Town Jazz Festival. Billy, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Billy, all of the excitement starting today. How has the build-up been to the event?
Well, actually, it started on Sunday because we have a huge training and development program of all the schools, and they did their final show. We had the free concert on Wednesday. We played golf, and the fashion show from Saktu was last night. So we're sort of getting into the run, and of course tonight is the official first night, and tomorrow is the last night.
Now, most importantly, who are the big names that will be performing?
Well, you know, this is kind of dicey. Rashid would say one group, I'd say the other. Mine, Soil, Jonas Gwangwa, and of course my ultimate favorite, Mikasa. They'll be performing, and then tonight we have Level 42 for those who are nostalgic, and tomorrow we have Erika Badu.
Now, the festival is celebrating 15 years. Just take us back to where it all and how it all started and how it's grown over the years.
That's an interesting question. Yeah, we started the Good Hope Centre in the early 2000s, 15 years ago. My maths are not that good. And within 2 years we knew we had to move, and it just wasn't big enough, and we moved to the convention centre, and it's still not big enough. And that is the big pity, is that thousands of people are on waiting lists still to get in. And of course it opens it up to people with fraudulent tickets. They're running scams. People from overseas and people from our country who come and they are buying tickets on the street, and we know that they're going to be turned back because our machinery to